Hi guys, it's me, Lisa Martinez, here to bring you this week's Silhouette Basics tutorial. As we did last week, we started talking about just the basic features of Silhouette and what Silhouette does. My goal is to try to keep these videos at approximately 30 minutes, not so I don't overwhelm you. So today I just wanted to go over some more of the features and buttons that are available with the Silhouette Studio design, since we didn't get to go through them all last week. And then if there's time, we will go ahead and start venturing into what some of these functions can do. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so as you remember, this is just, again, this is the Silhouette Studio Business Edition. We are just going to review what functionalities it has, the capabilities it has, and then again, as we progress each week, we'll just dive deeper into all the wonderful features that it has to offer. So if you're wanting to know what version you have, if you look right here, it'll tell you the version. Again, like I mentioned before, there is a free version that you can download now to play around with it. And then once you do your upgrades, it'll tell you what you have. I have the business upgrade. It unlocks all of the wonderful features Silhouette Studio has to offer. Okay, with that being said, we are going to go ahead and just continue. Last tutorial, we stopped off at the coloring session, the fill. This is where we could we can draw a rectangle, and then we could fill it with whatever color we desired. For instance, if say none of these colors are to our liking, if we hit advanced, you get a whole color scheme down here, and then you can just start moving the little dot to wherever you like. So the nice thing about this is say, I like this purple. It's really not the shade of purple that I'm looking for. You can just scroll over here and you can start adjusting the color as you need, or you can move the little circle to the desired shade you are looking for. Okay, just a quick recap on that. So the next thing we're going to do is, let me see here. Give me a second. Okay. Again, your buttons up here. This is to zoom in and to zoom out. I had zoomed in way too much. So this is our pretend mat if we were going to cut. So the next feature is that we're going to talk about is your line style. And that is right here, and it's got a line style panel, and it's got, you can see it's got a dash, it's got a thin solid line and a thick solid line. This, the purpose of this is so you can thicken up your lines. So for instance, let me make my square a little bit bigger so we can see. And I'm actually going to outline this cut line in black, just so we can see the difference. And I'm going to just remove the color from it. So right now, as you can see, we've drawn the line, it's super thin. So if we were to go cut this square, as you know, with Cricut or with the Silhouette machine, this is a very thin line. And say, and as we know, thin lines are just horrible to try and read. So when you automatically draw a line, your line thickness is always going to be at 0, 0. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can move the scale up and down, or by point size. So if we'll just go ahead and start arrowing up. Click on your image, sorry. Click on your image, and then you can see it says 0, 0. We're going to go ahead and start arrowing up. And you can see how our line is starting to get thicker and thicker. We can use the little scale to really move it up. And this is one of the wonderful features of Silhouette is knowing that you can thicken up, because sometimes you can't always bold it. Sometimes you just need a little bit thicker line to cut, to avoid tearing when, number one, the machine is actually trying to cut. Number two, when you are trying to leave this this box out or whatever. You can actually do this with fonts as well, but I will show you all that. I'm going to do a whole little segment on fonts, so stay tuned for that. The next feature here is, say the corners. Say we wanted more rounded corners. You can change them here. Honestly, I really don't mess with any of this other than the thickness, because sometimes I just want a bigger box, a bigger line to cut, because even at that would be a better cut line than it being super thin. So that's line style. Again, I don't use it often, and I really just only use it to thicken up cut lines. The next feature, I like to, it looks like a butterfly, but it also reminds me of a piece of toast. So I always say the toast, but this is image trace function. So this, you can actually say, for instance, you've got a PNG file that you've downloaded, and say, for instance, it's a butterfly. You really like the design of the butterfly, you like the shape of the butterfly, but you just aren't liking the colors. Well, we could trace that butterfly, and then we could actually start adjusting the colors. So that's a trace feature that Silhouette has to offer. Again, it looks like a little butterfly. My first thought is a piece of toast. I call it the toast. The next half circle, this little half circle, half moon, is an image effects. And this is where we can adjust our images. So let's just go ahead and bring in, let's just bring in this set of flowers here. So as you can see, these flowers are, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So these flowers are pretty, they're pink, I love them, I use these all the time. But say, for instance, for some reason, I just wanted to give them, just change it up a little bit. You can change the hue of this, and this is just gonna, if you can tell, it kind of goes from one end of the color spectrum all the way to the next. So say you were looking for more of a purple flower, but you like the way this was all put together. Again, of course, the green is a little off. Again, I don't use the hue often. The one thing I do use often on this image effect is going to be the contrast, the brightness, and the saturation. So with that being said, this means on the brightness, we can darken it up or lighten it up. So if we want to lighten this up, the flowers, the pinks and the greens are going to get lighter as we go up the scale, as you can see. If we want to darken it, we go back the opposite direction, we can get more of a darker effect. You know, we can get, you know, maybe we didn't want the flowers so pink and so bright, we just want to darken them up a little bit, we can do that there. So the contrast, the same thing, it's going to adjust. You can see how it's kind of gotten brighter, more vivid as far as the greens, or do we want to maybe have a little bit more muted, more dark, more dull? So that is what the contrast is. Again, you know, we can darken these flowers up a tad, but say we want them just, you know, we still want the brightness. We still want them. So as you can see, the flowers are a little bit darker. They're a darker shade of pink, darker shades of green, but they're still bright and vivid. So they'll come out in our project. Saturation just means how much ink color saturation do we want? Do we want, you know, more Do we want it really bright? Can you see how everything is just really changing? There's more reds and pinks. The colors just being more deposited into the image. So when we print this, it's going to be really rich. Or is our project calling for something more subtle? This looks really antique, kind of vintage, less color, just all depends on what you're looking for. And of course, we can go all the way back to the end of the scale where we end up with a black and white image. So that's probably the only thing I really use with image effects is going to be this one little sun. The others I rarely use again, but that's just a really neat feature how you could have a whole set of these and then just change the different shades and tones with that same print. So the next thing is, along with our fonts, as we had fonts on the left-hand side, when we do type a word, let's go back to our, so for instance, we're going to start typing a word. Say we already know of a font that we want, because when we select text, it automatically has its default. But say we already know what we want, we can click over here on the right and the list of all of our fonts that have already been, as I mentioned before, that has already been pre-downloaded, that Silhouette comes with. Also, anything that your computer that you've purchased, that you've downloaded, all of that will be on here. And then we can just, pick a font, and then we can start typing. It's a little laggy. If you do notice that your Silhouette is lagging slightly, don't be alarmed. It does that. I am trying to figure out how to get it not to be so lag. And then we can start typing our font. If we had something that we needed to align the font, this is where we could do it. If this had any type of bold or underline, we could select it here. Again, this menu is also on top here, just so you know. The other thing that is in this box is going to be your line spacing and your character spacing. Say you want your letters a little bit further apart, we can just move the scale. We can move our scale, or if we need them closer together, we can move it there. So 9 times out of 10, I come right here to the font box, font panel, and select my fonts when I'm typing in lettering and wording. The next one, this is only available if you've got the business upgrade. You can actually custom create a font, which is really cool. I haven't done that yet. I haven't had the need to do it, but that's just a feature that the business edition does allow. The next feature is our transform panel. And this is where we can start aligning things, centering things. So that's what this is for. Basically, it's almost, instead of a transform, it can be an alignment panel function. And you can just, again, this is another one that is available that I don't use often, but it is there only because the things that I do, I can do really quickly as far as selecting centering and stuff like that. I don't need to do all these other fancy things, but it's there and it's available. Let's see, the next function is going to be our replicate panel. So for instance, say, let's go back to our flowers here. Let me zoom out. So for instance, oops, I zoomed out too much. So say for instance, I really like these flowers. I want to fill my whole page with these, or just a row, or just one. This is really neat. Say we wanted to do the whole page for some reason. You hit fill page, click on your image, hit fill page. Give it a second. Okay, it's supposed to fill the page automatically. I'm not sure what's stopping this. Say we just wanted to duplicate it to the next row, we can duplicate it right to the next side, and there we go. Say we want to go down, we can go down and then back. So there's no need, of course, good old copy paste works too, but this will automatically space it out. Let me get a smaller, I know which one. Let's get these little daisies here. Open up our daisy. So here's our little daisy. Let's go ahead and let's adjust it a little bit. That's a good size. I'm just going to go back to my paper. I just want to check. Let's see. Okay. And there we go. This works perfect if we were going to be making stickers. It automatically fills and spaces your image to fill the entire sheet of paper. Again, I love this feature. This is really good. We will be doing stickers, so we'll dive deeper into this replicate function a little bit more when we do stickers, but the capabilities is there, because I know a lot of times when we're trying to do maybe something, if you haven't done stickers or anything like this, or placement, you're trying to copy and paste things and trying to place them right, and sometimes they're off-centered. Well, this just allows you to, it does it automatically for you. Say we wanted to do the entire row down. Say we had different flowers, we wanted to do daisies, and then we wanted to do roses, and then something completely different. This just allows you to, the system will automatically do it for you. So again, this is another fabulous feature that I absolutely love about Silhouette. Okay. Next feature is our modify panel. And this is where, as in with your Cricut, this is where we weld, we subtract, we crop. Again, it's just called something complete. It's just under a different category. All of these functions are under your modified panel. They do the exact same thing as your Cricut machine would do, or your Cricut software would do. Our next feature is the offset feature. I use this often. The nice thing about the offset feature is that it actually works with both images and wording. So if you're not familiar with offsetting actually what it does is you select an image, you select text, you click offset, and it's going to create a bubble around that image or those words that you selected, and then we can adjust it, creating a shadow type effect. Again, if we were doing signs for wreaths and we had text and we wanted to do some other, making a shadow type of font on it, this is where we could go. If we were doing a sticker, this is where we could go as well. Offset is a wonderful feature. It's probably one of the easiest things. If you've ever tried offsetting in a different software program, sometimes it can be quite challenging and quite difficult. This Silhouette makes it so easy to offset. For instance, say we wanted to offset, say we were going to make a sticker, or I mean, it doesn't even have to be a sticker. Say we love these daisies, but we wanted just another layer on the background. But because this is a PNG, we've got to stick with the black, we got the white, we got the yellow. Let's go ahead and click these. You've got the star here it's a double star, or you got your star up here. So we'll go ahead and click our offset, and it automatically defaults. So you've got an offset and an internal offset. The internal offset is going to give you the bubble shadow effect inside. The offset will make it around your image. So I don't recommend using the internal offset. It just doesn't give a great, it doesn't look really good. Again, I strongly suggest the offset feature. And when you click on it, it automatically defaults to this 1.25. And from here, we can actually adjust it. So for instance, say, and if you noticed, let me zoom in. If you notice when we clicked on the offset, it automatically created this red lining around our daisies. So between the black to the red outline, that's our offset. So that's just going to, that's the 1.25 is an automatic default, and say we're happy with that, we like that. All we can do now is we can hit enter. And if we click off of it again, we can actually move our daisy out of the way and say we want to fill in this offset that we've created. Say we want to do a pink background. And so there we go. We've now created some type of pink background, a background behind our daisy, and we're ready to go. Now, remember, it's actually two different things. We've got our actual original daisy image and our background. So once you get it centered where you like it, make sure you select all of them. And we want to group them together, which is Control G. And now we've got one image. Now, let's just say, okay, we didn't like that thickness. Say we want to, let's just grab another daisy here. Let's click on our image, click on our star, our offset. Okay, if you didn't notice, because I was a little bit faster than the system could keep up with, it actually created two offsets, which is perfectly fine. And I mean, that is something that, so what it does is it created, so we have our image, it created our first offset, and then it created an offset on top of the offset, which it could be a look that you're going for. I've used this a couple of times when trying to do a dimensional type of image. Again, you've got your daisy, you've got background 1, and you've got background 2. So what we could do is we could create, like, we've got our first background, we can create a little bit lighter in between. And then we've got our daisy. Whoops, center that a little bit more. So see, so now we've got a double offset. I mean, you could create offset after offset after offset. I mean, there's endless possibilities. But what I wanted to show y'all was, let me just move these out of the way. What I wanted to show you was creating the offset smaller, because we use the default offset. So click on your image, our offset. Okay. So distance is the same as our size. How big, how wide do we want our offset to be? So we can, again, number one, scale up or down, or we can use our arrows. Say, for instance, there's an offset that you love, you use it all the time. You can just type it in. Right here, I like the 0, oops, 0, try this again, 080. offset. You can hit apply. And if you can tell, it did reduce my bubble a little bit. It's not going to be as thick as this one. So let's just say we don't know what offset we want. So let's try that again. So we'll do offset. And then we can start scaling this down. We can just do click. And you can start seeing that red line move a little bit. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay. You can see that red line just starting to go down. Can you see it just decreasing? Or we can use this, our little. Personally, I think if you're not sure of what offset you want, using the arrows up or down is much easier than trying to use the scale here, because sometimes you can get a little heavy-handed and it's not going to adjust as fast as you want to. So see, we could get a super thin outline right there. If we can go one more, say we like that super thin outline, hit apply. And let's just shade in our outline. So we've got a very thin outline background behind our flower now. Okay. That is offset. And again, we'll go further deeper into that as we do additional different projects that's gonna call for an offset. The next one, the next features, the next buttons that are down over here, I don't use them often. This is if you were to create a puzzle. I haven't dabbled in that. This right here is, I'm actually not really sure. An embossing panel, I don't emboss, so I don't use that. And then there's some other functions here. Now, because we've ran out of panel space, you've got a little arrow here. And if you click on it, it's got some other features that is allowed. So we've got a warp panel, we've got layers panels, and just some other ones, only because there's not enough room on the right hand side. This little ball gem looking button is for rhinestones. So if you're interested in making patterns and templates for rhinestone applications, this is where it would be. I've played with it a little bit. So let's just go back to our plain. Let's get a different font here. Let's change this to something a little bit bolder. And let's see. Let me change my line spacing back. I haven't actually done rhinestone work, but this allows you to do the rhinestone work. Okay, so here, say we're going to put this on a shirt with rhinestones. So we'll size it up. So now what it's asking is, okay, what size stone are you going to be using? So for those that are familiar with rhinestones, These are the options that we have to choose from. So, or you can actually draw your rhinestone. Again, I don't do this often. I don't dabble with that at all. If I was to do it, I would just kind of select something that was pre-made. I would hit, that's the size. And then what's the effect? Do we want it to go around the edge? Do we don't want anything? Do we want it to go to fill it line by line by line? Or do we just want it to fill it the way it needs to be filled? So if we select any of these, and you can see how it automatically filled our lettering with supposedly rhinestones. So if we were going to make a rhinestone shirt, that is what it would look like. So if you can tell, the E looks similar to the O, so that might not be the best option to choose. So we can always select the linear for it to go line by line. Again, that looks a little bit better. It's a little bit easier to read. Say we just want the outer edges. That looks better as well. Now, say for instance, we're going to stick with this one. So what this would look like was the word hello would just be outlined in rhinestones. Say you've got a red shirt, you put on some silver rhinestones. The silver rhinestones are going to be outlined with the word hello, so the red shirt could come through. Now, I will tell you this, that say this E is a little awkward, but you can actually adjust the rhinestones before you cut. So by that, what we want to do is we want to click our little node indicator here. Oh, hit release rhinestones, sorry. So we're going to go ahead and, so what we'll do is we'll type our text, pick our stone size, select how we want it, and then hit release rhinestones. So here is our little E. And let me go ahead and zoom in. So here is our E. That is a little, doesn't really look like an E, but it's supposed to be an E. So say we don't like this rhinestone there. Say we want to move it. We can actually hand adjust these rhinestones. So when you go to click cut your template, it's going to cut the way you've adjusted it. Say we don't like this rhinestone here. Say we don't want a rhinestone there. We can click it and delete it. We can click and delete or click and move to where we see fit of how we would like this to look. Again, this is for those that are interested in the rhinestone applique. Again, this function is only good if you've got, this does not come with the free version. You do have to get the business version. So just keep that in mind. And then there's another feature. Let me see. Read settings. Oh, I can't find it now. Let's see. No. Here we go. So let's just delete all this. It's in your warp panel. So this is where, again, if you wanted to warp, that's easier. Not easy to say sometimes. So for instance, we have our wording. Now, if you noticed, it remembered, because I had this ballet dancer, it remembered that last font I used. So that's why that font came up. So let's just change it to something a little bit more easy, something a little easier to read. So for instance, say we wanted to warp this, we can go to our ABCs, and these are the different effects that it will allow your words, that it'll adjust your wording. This could be great, for those that are making signs. If you wanted that really visual effect, this would be really good. But the thing that I use this panel for is this cone or conical warp. So tumbler makers, your sublimating tumbler makers, we will dive deeper into this in a different video, but it is supposed to create your template for your tumblers. You put in your measurements for your tumblers. Doesn't matter if it's a 20 ounce, 30 ounce, whatever, you're going to measure height, the bottom and the top of your tumbler, pop in those dimensions, and it will create a template for us to use. So we will get into that a little bit further on a different video. So I'm super excited to show you guys that function. So basically, so that is all the pretty much basic functions and buttons in our silhouette. So I just wanted to continue to finish those, showing you those features that are available. And then next week, or our next tutorial, we will actually start doing some projects. But I just wanted to get you familiar with what is available, what is accessed, what they do, the capabilities that we're going to be able to do. And I'm excited to just go deeper and show y'all, dive in some projects so we can start learning and getting the most out of our silhouette software. So hope y'all like this video, and until our next tutorial, I hope you'll have a great day and see you then. Bye guys.